Good evening, I'm Spencer Buckler. Coming up tonight, the USC experience is different for students this year, but things also look different for prospective students visiting campus. And the state fair is back, but not without a ton of changes. What the fair looks like in a year like none other. And over the past few months, there has been a string of crime near student living complexes, how residents are reacting. But first, the University of South Carolina is now offering free antibody testing. People at USC can get tested on the first floor of the health center. The antibody tests are not meant to replace normal COVID testing, and results should be available in 2 to 3 days. USC is also sharing its saliva test with other colleges in the state. The school is teaming up with DHEC and MUSC to distribute the SAFE test to all 2- and 4-year schools across the Palmetto State. It is unclear how many tests will be available at other schools or when schools will begin using it. This comes as Clemson University is seeing one of the largest number of confirmed COVID cases at any campus in the nation. They are reporting that they have had more than 4,500 positive cases. Here at USC, we've had more than 2,500 cases with 22 active cases. In the rest of the state, K through 12 public schools have had more than 1,000 cases with about 150 between Friday and yesterday. South Carolina reported nearly 700 new cases today, bringing the statewide total to almost 159,000. There has been a number of violent crimes near student living apartment complexes this semester. SGTV News 4 reporter Justin Walsh has more on how students are reacting.
About 70% of the University of South Carolina's student population lives off campus, whether that be in an apartment complex or a house of their own. However, past and recent events call into question how safe these living centers really are.
It was actually in the morning, around 9 a.m. We were upstairs asleep, and we heard a loud crash downstairs that went on for a couple of minutes. So then one of our roommates came downstairs because his dog started growling. And as he came down, a dude ran out the back door and hopped the fence, and our TV was gone. Our back door was kicked in.
So I woke up really confused about 5 o'clock in the morning, and someone was banging on my door, like frantically banging, super loud. I walk out and there's police tape, there's crime scene, there's police everywhere. And I asked them, I'm like, what happened? There's police tape right on my porch. And they were like, oh, someone was shot and killed.
In the past month, multiple similar instances have been reported around the Columbia area. One that has students most alarmed was the recent shooting outside of Granby Mills apartment complex. Be advised, this next clip contains graphic content.
Yo, he just shoot a gun, bro. Hey, chill!
The guy actually lives down the hall from us, so it was a little bit alarming when we heard there were cops on our floor obviously after it happened, and they're gone from Granby now. I guess you can't really ever prepare for that happening. Since then there's always been cop cars in the parking lot, which is definitely a really a good assurance.
And plus hearing all the gunshots and all that stuff recently, definitely not as safe as I would like to feel. I mean, the one thing they do promote the gated community idea, but the gates are always open, so it doesn't really do much.
So the question remains, do residents really feel safe? And what more can living centers do to ensure safety?
No, not at all. I want to move really bad. I don't feel safe here whatsoever. River's Edge says they have 2 contracts with 2 different security systems, but I never see them. And there's no cameras anywhere here. Our parking lot, the lights are burnt out. I just know with the amount of rent that I'm paying, they can afford to put cameras in the parking lot.
Although it may be impossible to ensure complete safety living off campus, some students prefer to take extra security precautions by using at-home security systems such as Ring doorbells.
I clicked on the Ring doorbell and I could hear the audio and see who was there. And it was a man who was drunk trying to get into our house. As we were trying to figure out if we should call the police or if he would just leave by himself, he just left by himself, thankfully. It was comforting knowing that I could see who was outside before I had opened the door, because I don't know what would have happened if the man had tried to force himself inside of our house.
What is to be done about the violence in off-campus living centers still remains unanswered, but residents certainly don't feel at ease as of now. For SGTV News 4, I'm Justin Walsh.
Justin, thank you. The state fair is here in Columbia, but things are looking pretty different because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The fair is now a drive-through experience, and while the format has changed, the fair tried to keep many of the same attractions. The goal is for drivers to never leave their car. There are 6 lanes for drivers to pick up some of their favorite food and snacks to try and cut down on traffic. The fair says that depending on how some of the new changes go, they may continue into the future.
It has made us think through a lot of the things that we do. Maybe if the QR codes go well, that is just a fantastic way of getting information out to people.
Kathy Allen also says that fairgoers should be able to make it through the cycle in about 20 minutes. When we come back, Pope Francis's comments about the LGBTQ community are setting him apart, and why this year's election is setting records in South Carolina.
All flags, including the one at the South Carolina State House, will be flown at half-staff until
the alumni help inform South Carolina legislators about the many ways that USC benefits
Baseball has started off their 2020 campaign 4-0 after sweeping Holy Cross,
South Carolina at the Carolina State Fair. It is the national and international.
13 cases of infected people in the U.S., but experts here at USC say there is no reason.
Tonight is doing their comedy sketches. That's another branch of SGTV. It's a big deal. It's going to be
60 again, but those showers are showing up. Tuesday it'll be 68th Super Bowl.
In 50 years, they took down the San Francisco 49ers 31.
First Filipinos in California in October of 1587.
Good evening, I'm Spencer Buckler. Coming up tonight, for years, the minimum age. Tomorrow, the World Health Organization, there have been a reported 916 flu.
A study from the National Academy of Medicine states.
Tim Tully and staffers here at the Big.
Many members of the Carolina community.
Hip Hop Wednesday is a cultural phenomenon here at the University.
South Carolina absentee voting has reached record highs this week. With the general election 2 weeks away, 535,000 ballots have already been cast in the Palmetto State. This breaks the 2016 record of just over 500,000 votes. The South Carolina Elections Commission says the state is on track for about 1 million ballots casted before Election Day. In the age of coronavirus, prospective students are receiving a different style of campus tour. SGTV reporter Frank Martinez has more.
USC is undergoing major changes in the midst of a pandemic. From walking paths in the Russell House to mask wearing on campus, student campus tours have to deal with these issues while also showcasing the true nature of the Carolina campus.
Even before our visitors step foot here on campus, we are ensuring their health and safety. We do this by making sure our tours are capped at 9 people, and then our visitors have to fill out a health screening before they come on campus. With this, we also have in place virtual tours and really encourage self-guiding tours.
Offering many safe different variations of the tour is very important because for incoming students, the tour is a representation of the school.
Tour is the biggest decision factor that students will have because they get to see the campus, they get to understand the environment, their ambassador could become one of their future classmates or friends, and so they really do kind of want to see a holistic approach to the entire tour, which is why we try and show them athletics and the horseshoe and housing, not just something that they would see in their first year, but for all 4 years.
So future students, rest easy because U of SC student tours will continue to work, ensuring that no pandemic will take them away. For SGTV News 4, I'm Frank Martinez.
Thanks, Frank. Well, Pope Francis made waves this week after endorsing same-sex civil unions in a new documentary titled Francesco. Francis said homosexual people have the right to be in a family and that they are children of God. He went on to explain that he believes in a civil union law to allow for legally recognized gay relationships. While Francis previously expressed this sentiment as Archbishop, this was the first time he or any pontiff has done so. Homecoming week is in its second week. SGTV News 4's Kaden Dinkins has more on the new changes to homecoming.
Like many other events at the University of South Carolina, this year's homecoming team had to find a way to carry out the long-lasting tradition of homecoming week.
Homecoming was something that we didn't want to get rid of. We wanted to deliver that student experience because we understand how important it is to bring students together, whether that is in a virtual or personal setting.
Homecoming Week is a campus-wide celebration that has been carried on for several decades. Events and traditions are held on campus to get students together to show off their Gamecock spirit. This year, they have extended the event from 1 week into 2 weeks. The team is utilizing outside space like Green Street, Davis Field, and the Russell House patio in order to carry out in-person events, while other events were brought to virtual platforms.
We all have our masks that we've been wearing, and so we are doing everything we can to be safe.
The Homecoming Floats tradition still took place with displays set up to be judged on Davis Field. Other traditions, such as Spurs and Struts and the NPHC Stroll-Off, will be taking place during the second week of Homecoming.
Homecoming this year has been nothing short of the Roaring 20s. Even though the Homecoming team has had to overcome many changes, the one thing that hasn't changed is the Gamecock spirit. Free in-person and virtual events will be held until October 24th. For SGTV News 4, I'm Kaden Dinkins.
Kaden, thank you. Finally tonight, I'm incredibly grateful that I have this platform to share my thoughts with you all. Here we are in the middle of the semester. The middle is hard. You're in deep, but you feel far from the end. Things have gotten real and things have gotten heavy, but there's still a good stretch until that weight is lifted off your shoulders. So many of us struggle through the middle. It's difficult to find inspiration and it's difficult to find motivation. But it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to admit that you're not doing okay. Mental health should be a priority, and it's okay to make it a priority. There have been points where I struggled. There have been points that I spent over 15 hours working on campus in one day. And on those days, I cried. I sat in my car before I drove home, and I cried. That exact scenario played out day after day after day. I pushed through and I got things done, but when the pandemic hit, I took a break for the first time in a long time. Taking a break is okay. It's okay to admit to yourself that you need one. And it's something that I didn't admit to myself until I was forced to do it. It's brave to admit that you need some time to breathe, and it's brave to admit that you're struggling. Just because you aren't okay doesn't mean you aren't strong. And it's important to know that no matter what you're going through, you are never, ever alone. Well, that's going to do it for Weekly News. From all of us at SGTV News 4, stay safe out there and have a great night.